In a river water dispute between Nebraska and Colorado. Today, Nebraska Attorney General Mike Hilgers responded to Colorado's request to decline to hear a lawsuit regarding the 1923 South Platte River Compact. The century-old agreement spells out how much water Nebraska should get from the river. Back in July, Hilgers and Governor Jim Pillen announced that the state is taking Colorado all the way to the Supreme Court over alleged violations to the compact. Nebraska says Colorado is diverting too much water and blocking construction of a canal in Perkins County, which would help Nebraska get the water it is promised. 2 weeks ago, Colorado asked the Supreme Court to block Nebraska's suit, calling it premature. In response, Hilgers is now asking the High Court to reject Colorado's request and allow the suit to proceed. The Supreme Court is expected to make a decision sometime during its current term, which runs until the end of June or early July.